You know that feeling, right? The moment you realize the code you're working on is fighting you at every single turn. Well, today, we're going to talk about how to stop that from happening. We're diving deep into the principles of sustainable software design. That means building code that doesn't just work today, but is actually a joy to evolve tomorrow. Seriously, we've all been there. You kick off a project, the code is clean, it's elegant, but then, over time, it just decays. It becomes this brittle, complex thing that's a total nightmare to change. So the million-dollar question is, why does good software go bad in the first place? There's a name for this problem, and it's legacy code. And here's the tricky part. This code works. It absolutely meets the customer's needs, but trying to evolve it, adding a new feature, fixing a bug, it feels like you're walking through a minefield. This is the beast we're trying to avoid creating from day one. So it really boils down to this fundamental choice. On one side, you have legacy code, this tangled web that just resists any kind of change. And on the other, what we'll call beautiful code, a system that's organized and actually welcomes change. The goal isn't perfection, it's just making evolution easy. That's the target. So how do we get there? Look, it's not about some magical silver bullet or a secret formula. The solution is really about building up a mental toolkit, one that's filled with these battle-tested design principles that can guide our decisions every time we write a line of code. All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll nail down this legacy code trap we're trying to escape. Then, we're going to stock our toolkit with 4 absolutely key principles. Don't repeat yourself, or DRY, the whole idea of one job, one purpose, the famous mantra, you ain't going to need it, and finally, the art of building independent parts. Okay, our very first tool is a classic, and for good reason. I'd argue it's one of the most fundamental principles in all of software development. Don't repeat yourself. You'll hear everyone call it DRY. Now, the official definition can sound a little academic, I know, but the core idea is incredibly powerful. It just means that any single concept, any piece of logic in your system should live in exactly one place. That's it. One single source of truth for everything. And this is where it gets super practical. Just imagine your app calculates sales tax in 3 different places. If that tax rate changes, you have to go on a scavenger hunt, updating all 3 spots and just praying you don't miss one. But with dry code, that logic lives in one single function. You make one change in one place, and you're done. It's not just cleaner, it's fundamentally safer and way more maintainable. All right, tool number 2. This one is all about tackling a different kind of enemy, complexity. It's a really simple but powerful idea. Every single piece of your code should have one and only one job to do. Formally, this is known as the Single Responsibility Principle, or SRP, and there's a great litmus test for it. Just ask yourself, how many reasons would I have to change this class? If you can think of more than one reason, it's probably doing too much. I love this analogy. Think of it like a Swiss Army knife versus a chef's knife. Yeah, the Swiss Army knife can do a lot of things, but let's be honest, it's not really great at any of them. A chef's knife, on the other hand, it does one thing. It cuts, and it does it perfectly. Our goal is to build a toolkit of those specialized, effective chef's knives, not one giant, clunky multi-tool. And the payoff for this approach is huge. It naturally leads to modular code, where your system is built from these small, focused blocks. This makes testing so much easier because you're testing one simple function, not some tangled web of logic. In fact, this is the core idea behind super popular patterns like Model View Controller, where the model, the view, and the controller each have one clear, distinct job. Our third tool is this amazing mantra that fights complexity and over-engineering. It's called YAGNI, which is just a fun way of saying you ain't gonna need it. This quote from the world of extreme programming just captures the spirit of YAGNI perfectly. It's about discipline. It's about resisting that powerful urge to build features for a future you can't possibly predict. Just solve today's problem with the absolute simplest solution you can think of. And YAGNI isn't just some catchy phrase. It's a cornerstone of how we build software today. The entire Agile movement is basically built around it. And if you do test-driven development, you're practicing YAGNI. You write just enough code to make that failing test pass, and not a single line more. It's all about focusing on what's real and what's needed right now. Okay, so if DRY is keeping our code clean and YAGNI is keeping it simple, our final tool is all about making sure it stays flexible. To build systems that can actually handle change, we need to make sure all the different parts are as independent from each other as possible. And we've got 2 keys to unlock this. First, the principle of least knowledge. Think of it like this. Your components should be polite acquaintances,
not best friends who know all each other's secrets. Communication is strictly on a need-to-know basis. Second is convention over configuration, which is all about simplifying our lives by providing smart defaults so we're not bogged down making a million tiny decisions just to get started. And look, these ideas aren't abstract theory. You are using them all the time. The principle of least knowledge, that's the magic behind every single API you use. Your app makes a request, it gets a response, and it doesn't need to know a thing about the complex machinery running on the server. And convention over configuration, that's what makes tools like Create React App so incredible. They give you all these smart defaults, freeing you from endless setups so you can just focus on building.
So, as we wrap things up here, it's pretty clear that these aren't just some random rules to memorize. You should really think of them as the essential tools in your belt, the tools you need to architect and build robust, maintainable, and beautiful code that is truly designed to last. So here it is, all together, your Code Architect's Toolkit. You've got Dry to eliminate duplication. You've got SRP for focused, single-purpose components. You've got Yagni to keep everything simple, the principle of least knowledge for independence, and convention over configuration to speed things up. And that brings us to the final and honestly, the most important question. Knowing this stuff is great, but it's only powerful when you actually apply it. So take a look at this toolkit. Think about the code that you're working on right now and ask yourself, which one of these tools will you consciously decide to use tomorrow?